Hey everybody, and welcome to worship. I'm Pastor Aaron, and we're just honored that you chose to spend a little bit of your day with us here at Central Online. Whether you're at the cabin, you're watching on your device, or maybe you're with our partner church at Bethel in New Auburn, we're just honored that you chose to spend this time with us. We are launching a brand new series, which we are calling Be My Guest. And to get into this, I got a question for you. Does anyone know who this guy is? We all know who that is, right? It's Dave Matthews. He wrote Satellite and Crash Into Me. Dave Matthews is one of my favorite singer-songwriters of all time. And I got an opportunity to see him live at a concert at Soldier Field some 23 years ago. Last week, I was cleaning out my garage and I found a keepsake box of mine. And in that box, I found the ticket stub to that concert tucked away in the book. I kept that stub not because it was an amazing concert, which it was, but because of the story of how I ended up at that concert. You see, it was a Wednesday morning, and my best friend, a dear friend of mine, who happened to be a little random at times. Do you have one of those friends like that? Well, he comes flying through the door of our college apartment, and he said, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow night?" And I said, "Well, I've got this thing going on, and that I got this other thing going on. I have a big test in bio, and then I have to go to work." He said, "Forget all that. How would you like to attend the Dave concert in Chicago?" And I was thinking in my head, wait a second. These tickets have been sold out eons ago. Why are you asking me? There's no way you have tickets. And then my best friend proceeded to share with me about this classmate of his in his English class. Bought the tickets last year, totally forgot that they had the tickets until that morning of the concert. And so he bought them from his classmate super cheap. And then he said, "If we don't go, these seats will sit empty." I said, "Yeah, let's go." And so I ditched all the responsible things I should have been doing, and we road tripped it to Chicago and took in what was still my favorite concert of my life. You see, here's what you know and here's what I know. There are certain seats you can't let sit empty. For example, here in Wisconsin, there is a waiting list of almost 100,000 people who are waiting for season tickets for the Green Bay Packers. And if you are one of the lucky people whose grandparents and parents put your name down for season tickets when you were born and you now have season tickets, you wouldn't let those seats sit empty. You just wouldn't. Or how about this? Our beloved Milwaukee Brewers. They're having another incredible year with a payroll that they have. Just think, if they made it to the World Series, Game 7, and you had tickets, you would never let those seats sit empty. Why? Because an empty seat is an opportunity. When it comes to these tickets, it's an opportunity to see greatness. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see history being made. It's an opportunity to see something just magical. Today, as I said, we're launching this new series. It's called Be My Guest. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to look around the room that you're in. Go ahead, glance at the room. I want you to look for an empty seat. If you're at home, just do the same thing, right? What do you see when you look at that empty seat? I'm guessing for some of you, maybe that empty seat that's next to you, you see a little extra elbow room, right? For others of you, you might be Scandinavian and empty seats just make you more comfortable. Or for you parents out there, maybe you see a little extra room for your kids to play in the church pew. Maybe for some of you, it's an empty seat right in front of you. And so it's an empty seat that allows you to have an unobstructed view. Here's what I want to suggest today as we launch this series. An empty seat is an opportunity. Let me say that again. An empty seat is an opportunity. Here at Central, we welcome hundreds and hundreds of people through the doors every single week. Hundreds of seats are filled in this room. But here's the thing. Even though all those people are coming through our doors every single week, we still have empty seats. And you know what an empty seat is? It's an opportunity. Now, some of you might be listening and you're going, "Well, that's a little dramatic, Pastor." You might be thinking, "Are you just trying to get us to invite people so that Central can become a big church, so we become a mega church? Are you trying to get us to invite people so we can increase our attendance?" Well, here's what you need to know. Our goal as a church is not to be big. Our mission is not to get butts in the seats and be a trendy, growing church in our community. That's not our goal. Our goal, which is our mission, is to help all people find and follow Jesus. We want other people to experience what you and I experience as people of faith, to experience hope and joy and peace and love. That's what we want, don't we? But every week when there's a seat that's empty, every week it's an opportunity. And here's what I've come to learn. God can't do much with an empty seat because that empty seat is always an opportunity, a missed opportunity. It's an opportunity for that friend. You know the friend you have who's going through the most difficult time in their life. It's an opportunity for him or her to hear a message of hope. It's an empty seat is an opportunity for that couple. You know the couple, their marriage is on the brink. It could go either way. It's an opportunity to find guidance and to find strength in your marriage. An empty seat is an opportunity for that student in your life who's on the cusp of making choices that could have consequences that will last their entire life. It's an opportunity for that friend who is anxious, lonely, isolated, to actually experience community. Here's what I want you to understand. God can't do much with an empty seat. You see, an empty seat is always an opportunity. In the book of Luke, the author shares a story that Jesus told. Now, Jesus told a story about a man who threw this big party. It was a big banquet, and he left no expense. He hired the top chef that he could find. He decorated the place to a T. Everything was impeccable. The finest wines, the greatest champagne, the best band. I mean, think about the greatest party ever. That's what this guy threw. Well, he was planning this great banquet, and the author Luke says this: a certain man was preparing a great banquet and invited many guests. At the time of the banquet, he sent his servant to tell those who had been invited, "Come, for the party is now ready." So the preparations have been made. It's time to party. But guess what? It says, but they all alike began to make excuses. And if I may share my own opinion right now, their excuses seem kind of lame. Their excuses are kind of being made up. The first said, "I have just bought a field." Yeah, right. "And I must go and I must check this field out, so please excuse me." Another said, "I just bought 5 yoke of oxen and I'm on my way to try them out. Like, I've got to kick the tires on these oxen, can't come to the banquet." And here's my favorite one. Still another one said, "I just got married, so I can't come." Sure. This man, he's made all these preparations. He's got the caterer lined up, the band is tuning their guitar, the drummer's all set up, and here's what he finds out. He finds out there are empty seats because no one's coming. There are empty seats at this banquet. So what does this guy do? Well, it says, then the owner of the house ordered his servants, "Go out quickly into the streets and the alleys of the town and bring in the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame." It goes on. The servant says, "Sir," the servant said, "what you ordered has been done, but there's still room." Then the master told his servant, "Go out to the roads and the country lanes and compel them to come in so that my house will be full." You see, the master, the owner, the host, he tells his servants, not once, but twice, get out there, compel people to come in to fill the seats. Now, why does he do this? Why is he so insistent that every last seat is filled? Because the master knows that a party is not a party because of a band. It's not a party because of the food. It's not a party because of the decorations. It's a party. A party is a party because of people. And here's what I love about this story. Do you know where Jesus is at when he tells this story? Get this. He's at a party, telling this story about a party. And then get this party that he's at, it's an exclusive party. The only people invited are the religious elite of his time. And isn't it interesting that he chooses that moment to tell a story about a very different party? It's not an inclusive party, it's an inclusive party. You see, what Jesus is doing is he's describing for those religious elite what the kingdom of God looks like, what the world of God wants and God's people look like. He's telling the church what the church should look like. And he says the guest who's invited to the banquet of the church, guess what? Everyone is invited to the church. In fact, What he does is he says, hey, I want you to open the doors. I want you to go out into the streets. I want you to drag people in here. I want you especially to drag those in who believe they're not worthy. I want you to drag those in who have been forgotten. I want you to make sure that they know that they've been invited to the banquet. That annoying coworker you have, you know that coworker. That friend of yours that's written off religion, that's been hurt by the church, that friend that's lonely and anxious, that son, that daughter, that grandson, that granddaughter who's going through that especially difficult time. I want you to make sure they know that they're invited to the banquet. In a sense, Jesus tells the story because he's telling us, folks, I need you to open the doors wider because here's what I want. I want you to fill the seats. You see, one of the unique ways that God partners with you and me is that he invites us to fill the seats. You know this. Every week as we gather together for worship, what do? We throw a party. We throw a banquet, a party with words and music and food. Every week we throw a party for our kids and for our students in those kid and student environments. We put hours and hours and hours into rehearsals and preparations so that when people come through the doors of this place, of our church, that they would come to know the host of the party and the hope and the love and the peace that's offered. But far too often, there are empty seats. And what's an empty seat? It's a missed opportunity. There was a couple in Indianapolis that was getting ready for their wedding. The bride-to-be was a woman by the name of Sarah Cummings. They had saved and saved and saved, and they were going to have this biggest wedding banquet, the most elaborate wedding banquet that you and I could ever imagine. And so they went and they rented out the Ritz Charles in downtown Indianapolis. They went and they selected the finest food, they selected the finest wine and the best champagne. There would be black tie waiters walking around with hors d'oeuvres. They selected the best band they could find in all of Indianapolis. And as they made all these preparations, they would need to make this deposit, some payments along the way. They would have to put down at least 50% of the total cost of this wedding. Well, they did all that. They got ready. And the days got closer and closer. And then it came to the day when they were to send out their wedding invitations. And guess what happened? The groom got cold feet. He looked at his bride and said, I just don't know. Getting married is a big decision. I don't know that I'm ready. Of course, Sarah was livid and she was hurt. She took all the invitations, she threw them in the trash, and then she marched down to the hotel and she was going to cancel the wedding banquet. Well, she ran into the woman who had helped them make all these arrangements for a year, and this woman was so compassionate towards Sarah. She looked at Sarah and said, honey, you aren't alone. I've been there. And she shared her own story of having her own heart broken. But then she had to share this news. She had to share with Sarah that the deposit they had made and the subsequent payments, well, they had signed a contract, and so they would only receive 10% refund. She shared with Sarah that really she only had two options. She could forfeit all that money that she had paid minus that 10%, or she could go ahead with the party. And you best believe that now this woman, Sarah, she was furious. She was mad, thinking about all the money that they had lost after they saved and saved and saved. And the thing that bugged her the most is imagining those seats sitting empty on the day that was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. And so she thought, what if I did go ahead with that banquet? What if we did go ahead? And rather than a wedding banquet, what if we just threw a big, huge party? And that's what Sarah did. But here's what's remarkable. Just 10 years earlier, she found herself down and out. She was living in a homeless shelter. She had pulled herself up by the bootstraps. She'd gotten a great job. She climbed the ladder of success. She had saved and saved and saved so that she could have this elaborate wedding banquet. And so Sarah decided, what if I were to throw a party for people who today are in the situation that I was in 10 years ago? What if I were to throw a party for people that were down and out in this community? And that's exactly what she did. She threw a party like that city had never seen before. But there was one change. She went ahead with all the wedding banquet plans except for one change. Get this. She changed the menu. She demanded that they serve only boneless chicken wings in honor of the groom. You see, this party, it was a party for the people that were down and out. And do you know, on that night she was supposed to get married, every seat in the banquet hall was filled with people who got a night off from life on the street. They were served chicken cordon bleu. They were served hors d'oeuvres by waiters in black ties. They drank champagne. They listened to some of the finest music, and they danced the night away. As Sarah thought about that banquet hall and all the empty seats that could have been on the night her wedding banquet was supposed to happen, here's what she knew. Those aren't just empty seats. You see, those seats are an opportunity. Today, I want you to consider something. Would you do this? Would you think about this? Who are your 5? What do I mean by this? Well, what I mean by this question is this: who are the 5 people? There have to be 5 people in your life that need your invitation to church today. They need you to say, hey, I'll pick you up. They need you to say, hey, just check out worship online with me. Who are the 5 people in your life? See, I know you have those people in your life. How do I know that? Because we have a God who invites us every Sunday to gather together, and we are recharged and we experience the love and hope and grace of Jesus. But here's the thing. It doesn't stop there. Every Monday morning, do you know what God does? God sends you out to work. God sends you out to school. God sends you out into our community, into your neighborhood, so that the people you're surrounded by, those people, you can invite them to experience what you've already experienced. You can invite them to fill those empty seats, and their lives can be transformed as well. And I know you believe this is true. I know you believe this is true because who of us hasn't had the experience of sitting in church and we thought this, when we heard that message or we sang that song that was especially touching, we sat there and we thought this, wow, I sure wish so-and-so had been here with me. I wish they would have experienced this. You see, an empty seat is always an opportunity. And so here's what I wonder. As we close today, what if we were to take this message seriously? I think number one is this: it starts with us. We have to fill an empty seat. We ourselves have to make this personal. We have to know for ourselves and for our families that God doesn't do much when our seat is empty, but God can do miraculous, transformative things when we fill a seat. So it starts with us. We have to come and we have to fill a seat. But secondly, if we take this seriously, we get to be the people that invite others to fill an empty seat, because we know that seat is an incredible opportunity for God to transform someone's life. You see, I wish you could hear the stories I get to hear as a pastor every single week. Just a couple of months ago, we celebrated our graduating seniors. And each senior got up and shared their faith with their family and friends. And a young graduating senior was invited just a few years ago to come and experience student ministry on Wednesday nights by her friends. And here's what she said to me on that Sunday. She said, most places in my life, I feel like I don't fit in. But here at Central, I feel like there's always a place for me. You see, an empty seat is always an opportunity. And our invitation to fill that empty seat, it makes all the difference in the world. Author N.T. Wright puts it like this. He said, it isn't enough to say that we ourselves are the people dragged in from the country lanes to our surprise to enjoy God's party. That may be true, but party guests are then expected to become party hosts in their turn. N.T. Wright is saying this: if you've been to the banquet, now you are a host. As I close today, here's what I want to do. This is going to be really practical. We're going to pause for a minute. Who are your 5? Who are the people in your life that need your invitation? Is it a coworker? Is it that friend who's written off church long ago? Is it that couple that you know their marriage just isn't where it should be? Is it your grandchild who hasn't stepped foot in your church since confirmation? Who in your life needs your invitation? Maybe today You just pull out your phone, pull up your text messages, and invite the last 5 people that you sent text messages to. Who could you invite to in person or online? If you got a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper, you could sit down right now as we close. Just sit down and write down those 5 people. Who could you pull your phone out and just say, I'm going to invite this person? And write the names of those 5 people. Do it. Do it now. That's my challenge for you. Here at Central, we've got some big things that we can invite people to. We've got Baptism Sunday right around the corner next month. We have small groups and support groups. We have some amazing series that we will be diving into the next couple of months. Again, who are you going to invite? That friend, that neighbor? Maybe it's the barista at the coffee shop, or maybe it's the bartender or the waitress at your favorite restaurant. Invite them. And here's why we invite them. Because an empty seat is always an opportunity. Amen.